We've gathered today some of the directors of some of the largest organizations in our network as representative of the global movement that we represent. We're here today because the talks are in crisis. We're very concerned about the direction that these talks are taking, and our panelists will be speaking to the very specific concerns that we have and how we believe that they should be addressed. World leaders are coming today and tomorrow and the next day, and we expect them to take leadership to bring us out of this crisis. And we will be outlining exactly what that sort of leadership looks like. So we'll start with Jeremy. Thank you.
Well, good morning. And as you say, we are in a crisis. As of this morning, the text is in brackets. So really, after nearly 2 weeks of volatile and pretty acrimonious negotiation, 2 years of work look like they're still up in the air, unresolved, and with less than 2 days to go. It's pretty obvious that this is beyond negotiators and beyond ministers to resolve, and so we are strongly hoping that this will now be taken to the political level by heads of state, where it needs to be resolved politically.
The costs of delay, every month, every year that we delay taking action, the costs in the future will be astronomical compared to what we are talking now. We would like to see the same kind of political will by world leaders, particularly the rich countries, to ensure that they showed 18 months ago, when they mobilized trillions of dollars to bail out the banks, the bankers, and the bonuses. They now need to actually show that same political will to bail out the future of our children and grandchildren. So to conclude, we would say the science says we must, technology says we can, and our world leaders gathered here must say they will deliver a fair, ambitious, and legally binding treaty. Failure to do so will be the worst political crime they would have committed in our living memory.
There's been persistent rumors and even statements in plenary that some of the poorest, most marginalized, and worst affected countries in the world have felt excluded. They have felt that their positions have not been heard by the presidency. Therefore, it's really critical that the Prime Minister of Denmark, the new COP president, reaches out to the poorest and most marginalized countries in the world and makes sure that their voice, their concerns, their positions are heard in these critical days in front of us.
First of all, the U.S. We need a very different posture from the United States. The United States negotiators over the last few days have descended into legal wrangling over technical points that have bogged down the negotiations. Secretary Clinton and President Obama, as they arrive, need to lift the negotiations. We need to see from the U.S. a serious effort to engage other countries in a multilateral discussion that is about forging an agreement that is a truly ambitious global response.
Secretary General Ban Ki-moon told the Financial Times today that a deal on long-term financing is not so necessary now.
We have to be very clear here that if the financing is not on the table, and if developed countries do not accept the historical responsibility that is implied by the call for the financing, then in fact that it will be a complete deal breaker by the 18th of December. Ivo de Boer is the lead UN official here of what he said in July at the G8. He said asking developing countries to sign up to a deal without financing is like asking somebody to jump from an aeroplane and saying when you're halfway down you'll get a parachute. And that's a context. You're not going to get developing countries to move based on the track record of broken promises by rich nations in terms of financing.
Not alone will we not get a deal, but for sure we will not get a fair deal without long-term financing in Copenhagen. And I believe it was an unwise comment of the Secretary General, and I do not believe either that he represents the full membership of the UN in saying so.
On the NGO access and the security issues, these negotiations are unprecedented in terms of the number of heads of state that are here and in terms of the attention that we're seeing on the world stage. That's a good thing. We think that world leaders need to come to Copenhagen. We're happy that they're coming, but we need to see them take leadership. With that, of course, comes a lot of security issues, a lot of new arrangements. What we're supportive of is an open and transparent process. We're supportive of a process that allows for NGOs to have the input that they need and the input that we feel is important to the process. We're all here representing millions of our members back home, supporting a fair, ambitious, and binding deal in Copenhagen. And so we think that we have a critical role to play in achieving such an outcome.